Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Women in Motorsports. Joe Samieger here, along with Ben Schneider and Daniel Seri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet. A very exciting show. Before we dive into the interview, a big thank you to everyone that supports us through Buy Me a Coffee, one-time contributions. These fine folks has given us coffee, invest in the Grid Network, and of course, the best way to invest in the Grid Network each and every month, Patreon, calling the show Mark and Robin, plus David, our newest member. They invest in us each and every month to ensure we bring you more motorsports coverage, get to the track, and of course, once we hit $500 a month, we'll be going to the track more regularly, not just for us here at the Grid Network, but also help some of our partners that have tracks nearby to them as well. And Daniel, Ben, definitely I know it's going to be very exciting because we'll start off with the interview you both had with Chloe Chong and overall her efforts in F1 Academy.
Okay, so we are here with Chloe, who is the youngest driver on the F1 Academy grid, the inaugural season for F1 Academy. She's racing with Prema, so it's a Italian team and one of the really top teams for in Formula 4 racing. Hi, Chloe.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Ben. I hope you're both doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Pretty good. And so as we are starting to cover the F1 Academy here, we'll start to introduce also the drivers a little bit to our audience. Let's start to introduce you as a driver. What sparked your interest in motorsport? As I think I understand that you're not coming from a racing family.
Yeah, I'm not really from a racing family. I mean, my dad used to race quite a bit in rental karting, which sparks my interest, as well as watching the F1 on the weekends with him and as a little kid. And I guess it led to the point where I was begging him to just have a go in a go-kart. So on my 6th birthday, he took me go-karting for the first time. And yeah, I just haven't stopped from there. And I've never lost interest or passion for the sport. So.
And also, you had quite a good karting career in the UK, and also you raced in France, if I'm not mistaken. Would you sum up a little bit of your karting career so far?
So, I mean, from the ages of 6 to age 13, I did a lot of club racing, like within my county, within the country of England. And then when I was 13, we reached out and did the British Kart Championship in Minimax, where I finished 9th in my first season, which I was fairly happy with, although we had a really bad last round. After that, we did junior road tax in the Road Tax Euro Trophy and the British Kart Championships. I think I finished 22nd or 23rd in the British Kart Championships. So my first year, it wasn't too bad, but we had quite a few unlucky rounds getting crashed out. In the Euro Series, we only did 3 rounds and we made really good progress, so we're quite happy with that. At the end of 2021, I did the Miami Ladies Cup in France for the first time. And this was my first experience with the X30 engine in a senior category. And it was good because all weekend we made quite a bit of progress. Unfortunately, it rained and I had no experience on the tyre, so it was quite hard. But by the end of the weekend, we finished with fastest lap. So, that was a really good weekend, I think. And then last year, obviously, Girls on Track Rising Stars. It was a great experience. And this year, I'm doing the F1 Academy because of the experience I got from the Rising Stars. So it was a really good, way to step up in motorsport.
Chloe, what do you think has been the best individual race of your career so far, and why?
I think I don't have a single best race of my career. If I had to pick one, there was a race that I did before the British Championships in 2021 at Wilton Mill. At Wilton Mill, what they do is they have random grids, so they don't have a qualifying. So you'll do three heats, and you'll start in different positions. And I had a really unlucky set of heats, and I was starting 23rd for the final. And in the final, it rained, and everyone panicked with the tyre choices. And at the end of the day, it was just about who drove the best in the emergency situation. And I managed to come through from 23rd to 4th in a national level championship grid. So that was probably one of the best races of my career.
I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I want to ask you, what were the emotions like finding out that you'd been selected for the Girls on Track Rising Stars program in the final stage of that?
I mean, Daniel was there, so he would know as well. It was such an emotional 5 days of Paul Ricard in France with Winfield. You know, everyone learnt a lot. Everyone was passionate about it. Everyone wanted to improve. It wasn't just about getting through to the final. It was all about, you know, picking as much information as you can up. But at the end of the day, everyone wants to make it to Maranello because that's truly magical. And to be selected after such a hard day in the car, you know, it was my first time in F4 machinery, and I think coming away with a spot in the final really changed my approach to racing, and the stuff I learned is like stuff that I'll never forget in my future career.
You were also the least experienced driver among the finalists there, so you really no prior experience of Formula cars. What is the most important thing that you think you learned from that experience of that selections?
Well, I think the other girls were really helpful. You know, they gave me a lot of tips, and they helped me get more used to it and made me feel more comfortable in the car, because it was a bit daunting at first. But you know, being with the girls who were so friendly and so nice, it was great to get to know them and for them to help me find my find my steps in the car. So I think, yeah, it was a really good experience.
Also, now you will have another record because you're going to be the youngest driver on the F1 Academy grid. How do you feel about that? Being, you know, you just turned 16 2 days ago, so happy birthday again. And
Thank you.
yeah, how about that, being the youngest on such an important championship supported by F1?
You know, like a lot of people may think that being inexperienced is going to be tough, and yeah, it is going to be tough, but I also think it's an advantage to me because, you know, coming in my debut season in cars, especially with all the support given by F1 and the track time that we have, I think it'll be really useful for my development, especially being with such a team as Prema, who I know can help me, you know, develop and reach my fullest potential with them. And you know, being the youngest is good because it means that I don't have any bad habits that I need to let go of as well.
Well, Chloe, you just mentioned you're with Prema, which is one of the teams with the best pedigree in junior formula. What's the goal for your first year in these cars here in F1 Academy?
I mean, there is no goal. Like for me, the main thing is that I improve every time I go out in the car. I get more used to the car. If I feel like I've improved, it means we've done a good job. I think, you know, there's no pressure to be in the top 5, the top 3. It's because there's so many experienced girls, and you know, if I get a top 5, I get a top 3, that's great because it means that I'm improving a lot. But maybe if I start further back and I improve every race, and let's say I reach the top 10 midway through the season, I'm still going to be really happy because I'm the least experienced and I've got a lot of time, let's say.
I understand Abby Poling was one of your racing heroes as you were coming up through the ranks in karting, and now you'll be sharing the track with her. So what does that mean to you to be able to compete against Abby Poling?
I mean, it's great. It's really amazing. Like watching her when I was in just in karting in the junior TKM category. You know, it's been a long time, and it's such an honor to race against, you know, a driver that's been an inspiration for me. And it's not going to make the racing any easier though, but I think it's going to be quite a lot of fun, and I have a lot of respect for her.
So all the tracks are going to be new to you. It's quite an interesting calendar that F1 Academy has there with 7 rounds, triple header, so a lot of track time. What is the round that you're most looking forward to?
I mean, I've got to say the US. I think it's going to be an amazing experience, especially racing with F1. The track looks great. Me and my teammates are thinking about coming to the track in cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and having a lot of fun. And, you know, I've never been to an F1 race, so it's going to be a great experience for me. And to race in America is great because the crowds are great, the atmosphere is great. And, you know, I just love America, yeah.
That's really cool to hear. Also, outside of motorsport, I see sometimes on your social media that you play the piano. what are your other interests outside of racing? How would you describe yourself as a non-racing driver?
I think, like I really enjoy artistic things. Not art, but I really enjoy music. I have a passion for musical instruments. I play 8 musical instruments. I enjoy like basically anything in the arts. I enjoy a lot of sports. I enjoy going to the gym sometimes, but also at school sometimes I play hockey, I play netball, and I play cricket, and that's a lot of I guess I have a lot of passion for sports in general.
Now I want to know, what are the other instruments that you play?
Oh, it's a long list. I play the piano, the guitar, and the drums, and the saxophone presently. Before, I played the violin, the ukulele, the xylophone, and I also sing a little bit when I want to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I don't play all of them at present, but I've played them in the past.
Well, Chloe, of course, you're still very young. I know you just turned 16 a couple of days ago. How have you worked around combining your school time with, what you're doing, especially now racing internationally?
Yeah, I mean, with school, it's been quite hard. Thankfully, my school's been super supportive. Like we've always been in contact with them, especially like starting from such a young age. We've had to always talk to them about the time that I'm missing, and they've really helped me catch up on the work, and they've stayed quite supportive. So it's been really good. But I think this year is a really big step up in terms of commitment, and it's my GCSE year. So when you turn 16 in the UK, you have to take exams at 16 years old. And unfortunately, I'm missing 9 out of 10 of the exams because of racing. But the school's been really supportive. And I think if I feel the need to continue the commitment of racing, I can go into online school, which I know is quite reliable. And yeah, it's been tough, but the school has been supportive enough to make it really manageable for me. So it's not much of a worry, but I know it's a worry for a lot of other drivers.
Well, Chloe, I know you said you were excited to come race here in America later in the season. Have you spent much time following the racing series that we have here in North America, like IndyCar and NASCAR? Have you ever considered maybe wanting to try an oval race? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my dad's Canadian, so we watch quite a bit of NASCAR at home, and it's such a cool sport. I think the oval racing is quite fun, although I never really want to do it because it's quite dangerous as well. But it's really exciting to watch, and the cars are all quite close in the racing, unlike F1 that don't have the same chassis. So I think the racing is quite good, very competitive, and yeah, maybe I'd like to try the series if I get the opportunity when I'm older.
This isn't on our list here, but I just have to follow up and ask, did you watch the race this past weekend at Circuit of the Americas for NASCAR?
Unfortunately, no, I wasn't able to because I've been away testing in Italy, and we've been doing a lot of prep work at Prema, so I've had quite a busy couple of weeks, so I haven't had much time.
Yeah, well, I know NASCAR's only been going there for a couple of years, but it's been cool for us here to be able to have a race that we go to that shares the same track and races on the same place as the Formula One cars do. So we're looking forward to having you come over to COTA here later in the season.
Oh, that's great. I'm excited to be there. I'm really, really excited.
Very great interview between you guys, Chloe. One of the things I found very interesting that she brought up, no bad habits coming from the karting series to Formula. Daniel, is this change from karting over to the Formula cars one of the most difficult drivers do in advancing their career?
Probably not the most difficult, but definitely one of the most important, one of the most crucial points in their career, because really in karting you can test a lot. You can be on track every day, while in single seaters, the costs of course are different, and you don't get as many testing days as you probably had in karting. it's a really important step because most of them are really stepping up to an international championships. So the whole thing gets more busy and more crucial and more important with all the people around you, the teams, more teams with more experience. So I think it's a very important point in a young driver's career. And as Chloe said, of course, having the opportunity of having an important team like Prema, for example, but all the teams really that are entering the inaugural season of F1 Academy is going to be a really good first step for a lot of these young drivers.
Be a good first step. Now, of course, she did participate in a test session recently. Here's what she had to say about that test session.
It was a good test. It was my first test in 6 months. The aim for me was to get used to the team, used to the setups, used to the protocol that we normally follow. And, the goal was achieved and lots of progress was made. So I think it was a really progressive test, and it makes me more optimistic about the season ahead. I think we're going to do quite well.
Now, of course, we're going to be following the full season this year, but already, right before we went on the air, some breaking news about the 2024 season. Stefano Domenicali from F1 announced that F1 Academy will go from races across F1, other series, to just solely F1 race weekends only in 2024. Daniel, we sort of saw this before with the W Series going from essentially DTM to then F1 only. What are your thoughts of this move? And does it make sense, especially since F1 is really putting a lot of effort behind F1 Academy?
Yeah, as you mentioned, with F1 really trying to bring the F1 Academy project, to a bigger audience, it kind of makes sense. Also, of course, it's called F1 Academy, so it kind of makes sense to use the platform of Formula One. Obviously, it's important for the drivers that get to experience the environment around Formula One, the Formula One paddock. Be in contact maybe with team managers and the big audience. Like last couple of years, F1 really had a booming audience on track and also in the viewership in television. So it kind of makes sense for them as a marketing platform. Hopefully, they will get also some good sponsorship deals out of this. On the other hand, I have mixed feelings on this because, as you mentioned, W Series kind of did the same path, going from DTM to a more open first season with DTM, and then going with Formula One in 2021 in the second season on track. Let's say that F1 Academy so far has a competitive advantage over some other junior championships, which is track time, as also Chloe mentioned. There's over 3 hours of running time in every race meetings, and that's a lot. That's great, and this is exactly what these young drivers need. They will have 2 practice sessions, 2 qualifying sessions, and 3 races. So that's something that on the F1 weekend it's hard to achieve because the schedule is so it's so busy. You have so many championships. You have F1 that obviously has obviously is the main category. Then you have Formula 2, Formula 3. Then you have Porsche Super Cup that also is on the F1 build since its launch in 1993. So it's kind of busy, and in the smaller championships, sometimes you get a red flag, for example. You don't get to to end the session some of the times. So it's I think it's going to be crucial for F1 Academy to keep the championship on the F1 support build, but still keeping it to the running time, to the track time that they have today, because this is really what most of the female drivers that are coming up the ranks in feeder series, this is what they lack the most, which is obviously a most of the time it's a budget constraints issue. But they have been lacking the same track time that some of the other male drivers had, and then progress through the bigger championship. So I think that is one point. The second point to me is cost control, because of course going from one side to the other of the world with F1 is going to be possibly more expensive than what it is today with the 7 rounds all around in Europe. Obviously, Formula One is helping with half of the budget. With there's a budget cap in F1 Academy this year, with F1 itself covering half of the cost of the seat. That is also going to be crucial for them to keep it sustainable for the young drivers. For example, like Chloe, that are making their steps up to racing cars from karting. So that is going to be another point, and not going like, for example, in Formula 2 and Formula 3 this year, they are going, Australia this weekend, and then Bahrain, and from one side of the world to the other. So it's really going to be important to keep the costs sustainable for the drivers. And the third point is the commercial deals for televisions. I mean, it makes sense for F1 to go to F1 Academy to go with F1, because it's going to be easier for them, the TV production, because of course it's already on site and they use the production of Formula One. So probably that is going to be the best option for them. But on the other hand, you have the audience that with Formula One is going to be behind a paywall most of the times. So that is also to be taken into account, because for most of the junior championships, like Formula 3 or Formula Regional championships, go free to air on YouTube. So that helps, to build an audience and to get to know the drivers and a little bit before they get into the bigger championships. So I think that there are still as I'm saying, I have mixed feelings about that, but hopefully they will find a good solution to not compromise too much.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it all works. And I think the schedule, that's going to be a big thing, because as you mentioned, if they're going to Australia, Japan, United States, South America, and Brazil, that's going to add a lot of cost, a lot of travel time. And then, of course, the race weekends. We know Stefano mentioned earlier in the week he would like to get rid of practice, which, if you think about it, that could open up the schedule a bit more. But I think that's another discussion of the direction of F1 for another day. Now, of course, this past race weekend, we'll switch over to a track where seen a lot of F1, but lately also NASCAR, busy NASCAR race weekend. Circus of America, we saw Hailie Deegan. On paper, it looks pretty straightforward. She started 16th, finished 16th. However, we know she had pretty much an up and down day. Stage 2, she got 6th place, so she collected some valuable points, because we know she is way behind the points after a rough start to the year. But one of the things that was interesting, after stage 2, she made a pit stop, went towards the back. She did not make the progress she was hoping for to get a top 10 finish. That's why she finished in 16th place. Overall, though, she did improve to 17th in the points. Was the pit stop that late a bad strategy move, or was it necessary? Because this race, we didn't have any stage cautions.
Yeah, well, Joe, to be honest, I'd have to go back and rewatch the race to know exactly where she was in terms of her fuel situation and everything relative to the end there. But she had some damage that she had picked up as well on the front end, which again isn't too unusual these days in NASCAR, given how physical these races can be on the road courses. So I don't know that I can fault her team too much for wanting to maximize the stage strategy. And I was telling this to our viewers on the Encore show the other night. I still think it messes with the strategy a little bit, particularly on the road courses, even if you're not throwing the caution, because you still have series regulars that are wanting to maximize the opportunity to pick up a few points here. But at the same time, you have a couple of Cup regulars in the field, Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain, who obviously aren't racing for stage points because they're just trying to go out and get the win because they're ineligible for points in the series. So it still throws a bit of a wrench into the strategy, especially when a natural caution is going to fall on either end of the stage anyway there. So it was an interesting strategy deal. Like you mentioned, Joe, it was a very up and down day for her. She did run well in the second stage and pick up a few points there. But starting where she finished in the middle of the pack, I think we can take it as a bit of a victory for her in terms of bringing the truck home in one piece, which she didn't do the first couple of races this year. But I think for sure, obviously, she wants to, get to a point where she can be running in the top 10 a little bit more on a regular basis there, and not just, pick up some stage points here, make sure that she's finishing there as well. So again, kind of got shuffled back there and had to work her way back up through the field. But all in all, I guess you could say a solid day for Hailie Deegan and Circuit of the Americas and maybe something to build on as we look forward to the next few races coming up.
Now, you mentioned the next few races. There's going to be 12 regular season races left in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. And so far, out of all the ones completed, only 2 full-time Truck Series drivers have won. So, considering her progress, is not something where we're seeing a huge drastic improvement, but she's finishing the races. She's bringing the truck home in one piece, collecting stage points when she can. Has she improved from the first 3 races, and is her chances of getting the playoffs looking better, especially since we've only had 2 different winners that are locked into the playoff system?
Ask me in 3 weeks, because we've got 3 races coming up in consecutive weeks here. You've got Texas tomorrow, April 1st. Then you have the dirt race at Bristol, which, again, I know Haley has quite a bit of a dirt background before she even got to the NASCAR world, so I don't know if that's going to play into her favor at all. We saw it a little bit in the K&N West days, but obviously trucks are a bit of a different beast there, but we'll see how she can do on Bristol dirt, and then Martinsville the week after that. So there's 3 race weekends in a row coming up. I think that's a really good opportunity for everybody in the field to kind of solidify themselves and where they are. If she can maximize those opportunities, go out, get 1 or 2 top 10s, and improve her points standings rank a little bit, then I think we can have that conversation. But if she continues to run 15th to 20th all throughout, maybe gets taken out in an accident in one of those races, I think it becomes certainly a must-win situation for Haley Deegan moving forward. I said after the first 2 races was already starting to look like that because of being taken out in 2 accidents in the first 2 races. They're setting her so far back. She has climbed back up the standings a little bit, but these 3 races are going to be very, very critical as to determining whether or not she's going to be able to point her way in or need to win a race in order to get into the playoffs. And you also have the wild card, of course, of Cup regulars, and I'm sure we're going to get far too many of those, in my opinion, at the Bristol Dirt race in particular. So if they win a race, that takes 1 spot away from a truck regular taking the opportunity to lock up a playoff spot, so that could work in your favor as well. But we'll just have to wait and see. Ask me 3 weeks from now, and I think we'll have a much more defined picture of what the postseason is shaping up to look like.
And of course, a friendly reminder to all our viewers, Grid Encore Monday. Ben will be recapping the Truck Series, as well as all the other series going on across the globe this race weekend. Now, switching over to the National Hot Rod Association and some drag racing. Start off with Leah Pruitt. She overall had a great qualifying effort. 4th place, advanced to the second round where she had to meet Brittany Force, the defending Top Fuel champion. She qualified 5th. She got the win over Brittany Force. Then we got into the semifinal round. Sean Langdon got the best of Leah Pruitt. So Pruitt, she is now 13 points behind the points leader, and she is 3rd in the points compared to her prior season. Was coming off the gate a little bit slow, off to a better start. Brittany Force, the defending champion, she is 7th, and she is 46 points away from the lead. Over in Funny Car, Alexis DeJoria, she won the Too Fast, Too Tasty Mission Chip Challenge. That is where the prior Final 4 all raced against each other and was the late term a revenge style bracket. DeJoria took the win of both races, got that challenge win under her belt, and she qualified 2nd. So overall, it was looking like a great race weekend. In the semifinal round, she lost to Ron Katz, one of the veterans in Funny Car. Alexis DeJoria is 4th in the points, 15 behind the points leader. Then Pro Stock, where usually we talked about Erica Anders and this being her playground. She qualified 6th, lost to 11th place qualifier Bo Bunder III, who made it all the way to the final round. Erica, of course, had a horrible season opening race, couldn't make it to the start line, didn't get a chance to run, and was out in the first round. But the big surprise, Camry Caruso, who was essentially one of the standout rookies from last year, she qualified 8th. In the second round, she took out the fastest qualifier in Kristen Caldura. Matt Hadford in the semifinal round, and then took out Bo in the final round. So Camry Caruso took her first career win in Pro Stock, and she is now 2nd in the points, 7 points away from the lead. So a big turnaround from her rookie season to now her sophomore season, where she is a contender for the championship. Erica Enders, 80th points behind the points leader in 13th place. So overall, Erica Enders has some catch up to do this season in the National Hot Rod Association. We bring Daniel back because, as I've been talking about the National Hot Rod Association, they got another race weekend coming up this week. Dan, what are some of the other races you're going to be looking at this weekend?
Well, this weekend we have the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne, and FIA Formula 3 is making their first visit to the Australian track. So we have Sophia Flörsch racing in Formula 2. It's a second round after, of course, the season opener in Saki, where she was not bad at all. I think she did some good progress. We have always to remember that she's in a new team. And she was the fastest of her team ahead of both her teammates. So hopefully she can keep that the momentum. Then we have a big weekend at Sonoma in the US for the SRO America Championships, because of course the GT Wars Challenge America is starting the season, and we have two female drivers in GT World Challenge, with Ashton Harrison, who also has been racing in IMSA this year, and Samantha Tant. Samantha Tant will be racing both in the American Championship and in the European season of GT World Challenge. Interestingly, she will be racing with the BMW in ST Racing in the US, while she will be racing with the Ferrari 488 GT3 in the European season. Then we have also the start of the GT4 America, also in Sonoma. And we have also an all-female team with the Art of Racing. So we have Rihanna O'Meara Hunt, a New Zealander that makes a North American debut, together with Hannah Grisham. They won the selections of the Art of Racing. There were 9 female finalists in that selections, and those two actually won the seat for this season. In TC America also we have a female driver, Sally McNulty. She's been racing in that series for a couple of years now, and she's constantly making progress. Then we have the Spanish GT Championship. We will have it's a multi-class series in Spain across the top Spanish and Portuguese venues, and we have Nerea Marti, so a driver that will also be racing in F1 Academy. That also last year she actually had their first races in touring cars, and won the Spanish Endurance Championship last year with BMW in a factory effort for BMW Spain. And she's back with BMW this year, and she will be making her debut this weekend in the Spanish GT Championship in GT4. So it's going to be her GT4 debut. So we will be following also Nerea, and also a young 20-year-old Spanish driver, Alba Vasquez. Last year she raced in touring cars, in the Spanish Touring Car Championship, and she was third in her first season, also winning a race overall. So we'll also be following Alba in this series. And then we have the Nürburgring NLS series, which is obviously one of the highlights for endurance fans. We have 10 female drivers this weekend. And let me find out the entry list. In the girls-only team, we have Kerry Schreiner, Celia Martin, and Pippemann. So Pippemann, that is back to Germany before she returns to the 24-hour race later on in the season. Then we have Sophia Gachot, Taylor Hagler, of course, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge TCR 2-time champion, is coming back to the Nordschleife for the second round of the NLS. Then we have Sophia Menzenbach, Chantal Prinz, Desiree Müller, Michelle Halder. So 10 female drivers on the starting grid this weekend. So this is also going to be another really interesting race this weekend.
And of course, this weekend and every weekend, we encourage everyone to check out the website, racersbehindthehelmet.com. Get a full recap on all the past race weekends, plus exclusive articles and news reports as well, and all the latest news, including the breaking news from earlier today of F1 Academy, gone solely on the F1 calendar 2024. We encourage everyone to visit the website and be sure to follow Racers Behind the Helmet on all social media platforms. And be sure to follow us right here on the Grid Network on YouTube. Daniel, it's time for the one shining moment from the past week. What was your one shining moment?
I will mention Karen Gaillard. She's a young Swiss driver that she made prototype racing debut last weekend in Paul Ricard in the Ultimate Cup, and it's not the LMP3 class, but it's in a car that is very similar to LMP3 performances, and she was second in her very first race in prototype. So I would say that Karen Gaillard is my shining moment for last week.
Well, I think this was announced right after we went off the air on last week's show, but Regina Servant will be joining Venturini Motorsports in the ARCA Series on a part-time schedule this year. The number of races and which races she's going to do will be announced at a later date, but I want to give a shout-out to her for this opportunity. She's raced in NASCAR's Mexico Series the last few years, gotten some late model starts as well in 2022. And also a shout-out to Venturini Motorsports, continuing to give young women trying to move up the ranks in the NASCAR and stock car ladder these opportunities here. It's great to see. So that's my one shining moment for this past week.
For me, my one shining moment, I would have to agree with you, Ben, with the news of Venturini and another female racer. Of course, we know Talladega is coming up. We're going to have Tony Dare as well as Amber Balkan. Great representation. Talladega is shaping up to be quite a race because you're also going to have Mandy Chick, who, of course, was on this program earlier this year. Encourage everyone to check that out. And be sure to invest in the Grid Network. The simplest way you could help us out, subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Hit that bell icon so that way as we add new programs, we will update you and take a look at what the upcoming races and preview shows, such as Grid Encore, Grid Live pre-race and wrap-up, and of course Grid Tonight each and every week. Simple way you could also buy me a coffee. You could buy a cup of coffee for anyone, particularly on the air here at the Grid Network. Show your support for what they do on the air. Plus, don't forget our writers on gridranking.com. Be sure to visit our website for the latest updates when it comes to F1, NASCAR, and sports car racing, home of the Grid Endurance Performance Index and the Grid Ranking. And big thank you to Colin the Show, Mark, Robin, and David for investing each and every month. They help us pay the bills, save up to go to the track. You too could help us get there to the track more frequently, especially once we hit $500 a month. And don't forget our goal, share with your motorsports family and friends, 1,000 subscribers before the Indy 500. We are so close to 600 right now, then we'll just continue on the route. So definitely thank you to everyone for the growth of Grid Network. For Ben Schneider and Daniele Zeri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races. Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.